Now, tonight, the government shifts its focus primarily to those in the front line fighting COVID-19 pandemic, with an incentive from the Ministry of Health and the Public Service barely a fortnight after a private facility was set up for their own use. But they are not the only winners, as the government also prescribes a painkiller or pain reliever for the most vulnerable. It is the 16th day of April 2020, exactly 1 month, 3 days since the first positive case of the coronavirus was reported in the country. Let's now take you through the global numbers before we begin our bulletin. And we begin with the total reported cases worldwide, which tonight stands at 2,101,164. Now, the number of deaths are at 140,773, with Germany reporting more than 310 deaths, its highest within 24 hours. Now, the global recovery stands at 532,830. Let's take a look at the situation in the United States. Now, the numbers of infections is up by more than 27,979 to close the day at 641,166. The death toll is at 31,590, while the recoveries are at 52,845. Now, these numbers are as true as at the time we took them off the Johns Hopkins University Hospital website. Let's take a look at the top stories.
Tonight, needy households in Nairobi that will be the inaugural recipients of the weekly COVID-19 support stipend.
Government moves to soften the blow of the coronavirus on the vulnerable as the numbers rise to 234. Also tonight, while isolation is the new normal for most, it's not for some.
Either tutengewe mahali fulani kama walemavu, yani mahali penye paposevu.
We highlight the burden of the pandemic for those with special needs. Plus, a quest to uncover the truth about a burial in the dead of the night. A family of Siaya coronavirus victim wants his body exhumed. And also tonight,
we have 5 subjects that we shall be teaching.
Learning at a safe distance, school goes online in Bungoma.
Live from the Nation Centre, this is NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu.
Now, good evening and welcome to our broadcast. Flora Tieno is our sign language interpreter tonight. And we begin with the top stories. And 9 more tested positive for the coronavirus, bringing the total to 234. In an address to the nation earlier today, President Kenyatta acknowledged that measures put in place to beat the virus were actually working, but this was quickly followed by a grim caution that the country was not yet out of the woods. Let's quickly run you through the latest numbers. Now, the government tested a total of 704 samples in the last 24 hours. So far, there has been 11 deaths. More than 1,000 people are in quarantine facilities and 156 people aged between 2 and 69 years are in isolation. And as the pandemic continues to burrow deep into our society, those with tight financial resources have fewer options as they navigate the coronavirus closures, shutdowns, and of course, layoffs that have shattered lives. Tonight, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced just how his government will ease the pain of the pandemic on the country's vulnerable population. Ken Mijungu with that report.
Earning a living under any circumstances is never easy. But with restrictions to stem the spread of the coronavirus, many fear they won't manage anything at all. The burden of the pandemic has been disproportionately felt by those in the lower reaches of the economic strata. The elderly and those living in slums will be the most affected. The government is now moving to ease the burden of the pandemic on them.
We have identified needy households in Nairobi that will be the inaugural recipients of the weekly COVID-19 support stipend. The piloting of the program started yesterday, and some of the initial beneficiaries have received their stipend. In addition, today my administration has also released 8.5 billion shillings to the elderly and vulnerable individuals under the cash transfer program run by the Ministry of Labor.
The directive to give such household a stimulus package follows earlier measures to cushion those earning less than 24,000 shillings by giving them a tax relief.
In addition, 500 million shillings, which were in arrears, have also been released to persons with severe disabilities.
Further, the president is calling on the privileged in the society to supplement government efforts, noting that thus far, the COVID-19 fund has attracted contributions to the tune of about 1 billion shillings. He has also called on the enhancement of the Adopt a Needy Family program, rallying Kenyans to a collective effort against the virus.
I do not want to hear of needless delays or frustrations caused of well-designed appropriate measures that Kenyans in the civil and private sector have designed to assist their fellow citizens. We must expedite our ability to deliver this assistance to our people in the shortest possible time.
Counties have been lamenting over their levels of unpreparedness if coronavirus cases were to be detected, majorly for lack of equipment. And today, the president has issued orders that may help the situation.
I am directing that county governments receive a 3-month waiver from the Kenya Medical Supply Agency requirement for the purchase of masks and PPEs to protect our citizens and healthcare workers from infection. This waiver applies to sourcing of these products locally.
President Kenyatta has also called on governors to work closely with county commissioners to coordinate efforts to reach the vulnerable in the counties.
The national government will also support the county's response to the coronavirus crisis with an additional 5 billion shillings that will supplement the savings that the counties have generated.
Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
Well, also tonight, the president placed a reassuring arm around the healthcare warriors who suit up every day to go to the front lines and battle this pandemic. The president announced a special package for the healthcare workers.
Recognizing the critical importance of health, mental and emotional needs of our frontline medical doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals, I am today directing the Ministry of Public Service and the Ministry of Health to develop a welfare package to cushion these frontline officers, especially during this challenging time. This should include actions by medical insurance companies to cover the health requirements of our hospital staff, especially those dealing with this pandemic.
Right, an update from Siaya. The family of the late James Oyugi Onyango, who was quickly and controversially buried in the dead of the night in Siaya County after allegedly succumbing to the coronavirus, has gone to court seeking orders to exhume his body. Now, Joan Akoth Ajuang, the deceased younger sister, and Brian Thomas Oyugi, his third-born son, also want an autopsy carried out to ascertain the real cause of his death. NTV's Oko Kusa with a report.
In the thick of the night, under the watchful eye of the police, healthcare personnel, fully kitted, hauled the late James Oyugi's body, draped in a body bag, and unceremoniously tossed it into a shallow grave, stirring debate on just how to balance between managing public health and upholding the dignity of the dead. Now his son Brian Thomas Oyugi and his younger sister Joan Akoth Ajuang are officially demanding that the government sheds light on the darkness around this quick night burial.
Hata barua tuna, hatujui nini nimeua. Hata baba alipomita tuna. Tuko hivyo nyonatuona.
The duo is demanding that should it be found that the former Kenya Ports Authority man died of COVID-19, then he should be offered a decent burial in accordance with the World Health Organization guidelines on the safe management of a coronavirus body.
Babangu atolewe, azikwe kama binadamu. Hivi si mtu wa utupwa hivyo, si haki hata kidogo.
The family also wants to be allowed to nominate a maximum of 15 people from immediate or extended family to witness the autopsy and that all of them be provided with protective gear by the Ministry of Health during the post-mortem. In a lawsuit filed at the High Court in Siaya, the two petitioners have listed Michael Owuor Osodo, Chief of Simur Kondiek location, as the first respondent, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe as the second, Attorney General as the third, and Law Society of Kenya as an interested party. Siaya Senator James Orengo has also joined the list of those calling for answers after he petitioned the ad hoc committee on COVID-19 situation in Kenya to investigate and report to the Senate the reason and justification of the night burial, the cause of Oyugi's death, why the body was not buried in a coffin, and why the family was not consulted prior to the burial. Meanwhile, top government officials visited Siaya County on Wednesday following its first confirmed COVID-19 death. The team, which included Ministry of Health Acting Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth and government spokesman Cyrus Oguna, toured various places, including the home of the late James Oyugi, the quarantine center located inside the Kenya Medical Training College Siaya campus, where 64 people believed to have had primary and secondary contact with the deceased have been isolated, and Siaya County Referral Hospital, where an isolation ward has been set up. Huko Kusa, NTV.
Now, Kilifi Deputy Governor Gideon Saburi was this morning released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings after spending nearly 2 weeks in police custody. Saburi was charged with contravening the Public Health Act after he defied the government's directive to self-quarantine. The court also ordered him to deposit his travel documents. Kevin Mijungu was in court.
A Mombasa court convened on Thursday to give a ruling on the application to release Kilifi Deputy Governor on bail. The prosecution had requested the court to detain the accused person for 10 days to allow for investigations after he allegedly exposed himself in public while suffering from an infectious disease without taking precautions. Senior Principal Magistrate Elvis Micheko, however, ruled that Saburi posed no threat to the public as he had been discharged from the Coast General Hospital after testing negative for COVID-19.
The accused person is therefore granted bail on the following terms. Number one, the accused may be released upon deposit into court of cash bail in the sum of 200,000 or post a bond of 500,000 with one surety of like amount.
The magistrate also directed that the accused person surrenders his travel documents in court and proceeds to self-quarantine for the next 14 days at one of his homes within Mombasa. The accused person has also been ordered to restrain from making contact with any of the witnesses involved in the case.
And thereafter comply with the government directives on self-distancing, curfew, and movement restrictions, failing which the court will be at liberty to cancel his bond or bail.
COVID-19 is no joke. It has devastated the world. Certainly the anxiety that he has apparently caused out of this story, he regrets it. It was honestly not his intention that he should have brought this anxiety. He will abide by the law, he will have his day in court, and justice ultimately will be done. But he passes the message that he is very remorseful for the environment as created by the incident as alleged.
And now the matter is set to come up for mention next month. Kevin Mijungu, NTV, Mombasa.
Now, the coronavirus has forced schools around the world to shut down, interrupting learning, but a group of students in Bungoma County are now catching up with their schoolwork after a group of like-minded parents enrolled their children to schools that use video conferencing technology to dispense lessons and prepare their children for the national exam. NTV's Brenda Wanga with that report.
We have 5 subjects that we shall be teaching.
It has all the hallmarks of a mathematics lesson in progress, but it isn't your everyday lesson. The teacher's blackboard, a wall in a house. His students far removed from here. This lesson has gone virtual. This is the Kibabi Virtual School, the brainchild of Job Mukhwana, who also serves as the teacher's assistant in this lesson and school. He is responsible for setting up the lessons, linking the learners to the teacher, and ensuring that the tools are working in perfect condition.
Kuna njia yoyote ninaweza nikatumia ili mtoto huyo anaweza akasoma kwa simu ama kwa kompyuta na asikie raha.
To teach them online, keeping social distance.
He says he was motivated to do his part to ensure the children, right now out of school, do not miss out on the lessons, especially those preparing for the national examinations.
Sipendelei mtoto wangu kutembea huku na huku. Huwa anakaa kwa nyumba. So hii imenisaidia. At least mtoto hakutani na mwalimu lakini anamuona.
The school currently offers 5 lessons per class for the secondary school children. The school hasn't sacrificed on quality. The teachers hired here are all qualified and registered.
I understand what NEC requires. And that is why when we looked at this current situation in Kenya, we decided that we should have at least something, we could create something that will assist our Form 4 students.
The use of technology to enable learners beat the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions has come easy for the learners who are already tech-savvy. They are able to follow the lessons, ask questions, and seek clarity where they do not understand.
What they do, then I will mark for each of them. So assessment we shall determine.
Daona, afu usikilize pia. Unaweza uliza swali, mwalimu akakujibu pale ambapo hujaelewa.
The school will run for the duration of the suspension of formal learning in schools. This way, the parents say their children will be up to speed when normal learning resumes. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Away from that, earlier this morning, the Council for the Administration of Justice, chaired by Chief Justice David Maraga, held a virtual meeting attended by, among other members, the Solicitor General, the Director of Public Prosecution, the Chief Exec, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and the President of the Law Society of Kenya. Now, the meeting resolved to put in place measures in line with the national government's COVID-19 resolutions that will ensure the smooth administration of justice. For instance, all suspects, irrespective of the nature of their offences, must be produced in court within 24 hours of arrest. Now, those out on police bail or bond are exempted from this directive. Now, all hearings of criminal appeals by the High Court and the Court of Appeal shall be scaled up and will proceed through modalities as agreed upon by the parties to the case, including judges and the prison staff, while the judiciary shall put in place measures that comply with COVID-19 directives, and when necessary and possible cases will be heard via video links. Now, the registry operations and services will henceforth be scaled up effective the 21st day of this month, while the registry staff supervisor shall report to the workstation, but the number of staff at work shall be determined per station in compliance with the Ministry of Health directive on COVID-19. Now, the other measures include scaling up the hearing of civil matters beginning the 22nd of this month. Pending judgments and rulings will be delivered in open court, while orders will be released to litigants within 24 hours of their pronouncement. Civil orders and decrees suspended before the 16th of March will remain in place until the 22nd of this month, and all suspects to be arraigned within 24 hours of arrest. Hearing of criminal cases, as I have mentioned, will be done by video links. Now, in other news from the courts, Police Constable Emmanuel Ambunya Onyombe, who was arrested in connection with the murder of University of Leeds student Carlton David Maina in Kibra, right here in Nairobi, will remain in police custody for 7 more days. Oyombe was arraigned before Judge Ngenya Macharia on murder charges. The accused did not answer to the allegations, as he has to undergo a mental assessment before taking plea. The officer had asked the court to release him on bail, arguing that he was not a flight risk and he had 2 young children who depended on him. Maina was shot dead in Lainisaba in December of 2018. He had been walking home after watching a late-night football match. Elsewhere, Rome-based priest Father Richard Oduor was today charged with knowingly spreading the coronavirus. He denied the charges and was released on a cash bail of 150,000 shillings. He was also ordered to quarantine for 14 days. The priest was arrested on the 9th of April, just after he was discharged from hospital after he tested positive for the coronavirus. Father Oduor arrived in the country on the 11th of March and traveled to Siaya 2 days later for the burial of a close relative. Well, time now for our first break, but let's take a look at this. Now, David Munyao, who is 22-year-old self-taught artist from Mulango Ward, that's in Kitui Central, has been doing street art to raise awareness on the coronavirus pandemic that has ravaged the country as much as the rest of the world. In the streets of Kitui town and his home village in Wikilie, now the walls are plastered with his messages calling on the country's attention to health guidelines to keep the virus at bay, such as observing hand hygiene and social distancing. Munyao didn't manage to join university after completing his secondary education back in 2016 due to lack of school fee, but still hopes to pursue his dream of becoming an artist. Well, right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Okay, thank you. Hi there. Selena, it's great seeing you getting so much value for your money.
Well, it's important to save as much as you can.
You save everywhere. Except for here. This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only one round of application gives you sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
Nyaje wa Kenya. Hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water. Apply a small amount of soap. Rub palms together. Rub fingers and thumbs and the bits in between. Rub nails on palms. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Birthday party.
Birthday party. Birthday party. Are we not invited? We have gifts. Malaria.
Mommy, pest.
Rat.
Oh, die.
Party.
Compared to spray, Mortein Dew and Power Guard kills disease-causing pests instantly. Mortein Dew and Power Guard.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile?
All that in one toothpaste?
Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums.
Ah, Colgate Herbal.
Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime, showtime, showtime. Guess who's back again? I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. What? Trend. It's going down. cause I'm around. Everybody knows I'm unstoppable. Let me make one thing clear.
Ladies and gentlemen,
every day we endeavor to provide you with best real estate solutions. Own your dream home at Victory Gardens. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Live from the Nation Centre, this is NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu.
Well, the news continues right here on NTV Tonight, and for the first time in a long time, huge populations are coming face to face with a sense of isolation and feeling of exclusion from normal life. But for many others who often live in the fringes of the society, such as persons living with disability and those with special needs, this detachment from, quote, normal life and the daily experience of isolation is unfortunately the norm. NTV's Leila Mohammed highlights the burden of the pandemic on this special group of people.
For the last few weeks, Eunice Etieno has had to stay home in line with health experts' calls for social distancing to stem the spread of the coronavirus. For all this time, she has had to abandon her only means of putting food on her table, making donuts by the roadside, and this means for some nights, her family will have to sleep on an empty stomach.
Nilikuwa napika mifuko 4-6, lakini kwa sasa napika mfuko moja. Corona imeni affect juu niko na watoto. Hiyo biashara ndio tegemeo, mimi sina mume.
She is among hundreds living in the crammed Kibera slum, just a blip in the socially invisible and forgotten community that puts up here, and unlike others, she cannot stand in line for any donations that may come through in her community.
Ni vizuri kama vitu kama hizo zikitokea, labda watulete sisi kama walemavu kwa nyumba.
500 million shillings, which were in arrears, have also been released to persons with severe disabilities.
In the midst of a pandemic, some of those living with disability or contending with a chronic illness are now at double disadvantage.
Either tutengewe mahali fulani kama walemavu, mahali tutaenda, yani mahali penye papo save.
With night curfews currently in force, every life-sustaining venture to put food on the table sometimes feels like playing Russian roulette.
Kwa sahi hakuna biashara hapo kwa barabara. Nilikuwa nauza tu hapa kwa barabara hapo nje, lakini saa zingine hata inaweza fika hiyo masaa ya saa 1 hujapata pesa ya kununua hizo vitu, ndio unafikiria kwenda kutumana watoto waende wanunue. Hapo maskari washafika.
Not so far from her home, Berry Lakoth is home with her son Roy Odhiambo in their one-roomed house when she received a visit from well-wishers who have come bearing gifts. This generous gesture will sustain her and her family for a few more days. Roy has been living with a condition caused by cerebral palsy, which he has lived with since he was a baby.
Nilikama at long last nikakam nikaielewa juu niliambiwa. Kwa hivyo nimeishi kama nimeikubali, lakini at the moment hakuna physio fanywa juu siwezi toboa.
While life was tough enough before the coronavirus, now it's taken a turn for the worse.
Kuna zile food anakula na kuna zile food hakuli. Sasa by the time unaangalia dish, urudi angalia, na kuna watu wengine by the way. Kwa hivyo kuna food mtoi ametumia pampers all along. Kama kwa sahi hata hiyo story ya pampers nimeisahau, ndio kwa sababu hata amepata akiwa hivyo. Sasa kila sana nashinda kwa maji kufua. Juu lazima unajua mtu kama huyu anataka mali safi. Na kuna watu expect mali kunao mtu hii afai kuwa. Yani sijui kuna vile watu huchukulia watu negative. Kwa hivyo mtu ana expect akikam kukuona ama akikam kukusaidia anafaa kupata state nyingine kwa ile hao ndio hawezi kukusaidia.
Fadhali kabla corona kwa natoka mimi ni driver. Na sasa boss kwa kwanza vile Uhuru alisema mtoto asiende shule. Alisema nikae kwa nyumba.
Those restrictions have, according to his father, made it that much harder for him to provide for his family. Francis says if things remain as they are, he may not have a roof over his head.
Unajua pale tunaishi hapa si nyumba ya babangu. hii ni nyumba ya mtu inafaa lipiwe, pia anataka pesa. Sasa kama sahii tunaangalia tu vile tutakuwa.
To further cushion vulnerable Kenyans, we have identified needy households in Nairobi that will be the inaugural recipients of the weekly COVID-19 support stipend.
While government warns of tougher times ahead, families of those with special needs hope to be among those who benefit from government programs to ease the burden of the pandemic on them. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Of course, you must have heard about the initiative to adopt a family. Please do that if you can, because you never know how much you're coming through for a desperate family, especially with the COVID-19. So if you can share the little you have, I know God will bless you. Let's move on now. Messages of condolences continue to pour over the loss of Rumba musician Kasongo wa Kanema, who died 2 days ago. Now, Kasongo was part of one of the many Congolese bands that enjoyed airplay right here in the country between the 70s and the 90s. He also played at various clubs within the major cities, packed with Rumba lovers. Before his death, Kasongo relived his journey into professional music and explained that whilst the stroke might have forced him off the stage, the music was still very close to his heart. As an 80s kid, you know, we remember his music a lot. And incidentally, I don't know why we used to call him as kids Kasongo Menyo. I still don't understand. But let him rest in peace. The music lives on. And time for another break. But let's see what's coming up on the other side. inedible potatoes. The kitchen failures of Vietnamese families in self-isolation are being shared online, with hundreds of thousands joining a Facebook group to console each other over their culinary catastrophes. Now, with half of the world in lockdown, master chefs in the making across the globe have been posting snapshots of their perfect pastries. But the founder of this Facebook group decided the world would-be bakers could benefit from a grain of truth.
Avoid the crowds and use your card. Pay with your Absa debit card at any point of sale. Or better yet, shop online. Stay safe.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Selena!
Toto, where's mommy?
Today's a toilet day.
What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Harpic 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Harpic 10X will give you.
Wow!
Harpic 10X. Harpic, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
Niaje wa Kenya, hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water. Apply a small amount of soap. Rub palms together. Rub fingers and thumbs and the bits in between. Rub nails on palms. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
NTV Business News in association with KCB Internet Banking.
Right, we're back and time to make sense of the sense. Now, Kenya is in talks with some of its bilateral and multilateral creditors pursuing waiver of debt servicing obligations. This measure is aimed at easing the pressure on the economy that it faces right now in coping with the COVID-19 scourge. President Kenyatta says waiving debt obligations will allow the country to redeploy more of the resources to responding to the present crisis. Data from the Treasury reveals that Kenya is expected to pay 132 billion shillings in interest on foreign debt in 2020.
With the largest economies in the world, are in discussion with ourselves on the issue of suspension of debt for a period in order to allow countries to be able to spend more in combating this pandemic and its effects, as well as the recovery, economic recovery, that needs to also come.
Still in the Treasury, the National Treasury has designated 1.56 billion shillings for the COVID-19 pandemic emergency response projects as Kenya steps up efforts to curb the spread of this virus. Supplementary budget 2, however, reveals a net reduction in the Health Ministry's budget for the current financial year as the government rationalizes expenditure in light of the reducing revenues. Julian Samboko has the details.
The COVID-19 Emergency Response Project, which is designed to provide emergency funding for medical diagnostic services, surveillance and response in light of COVID-19, was one of the priority assignments as the National Treasury realigned its spending plan for the remaining part of the financial year 2019-2020. Even as the Ministry of Health's aggregate budget was revised downward by 9.8 billion shillings to 85.1 billion shillings in the just stable supplementary budget, the project has been allocated 1.56 billion shillings in view of the present crisis. The supplementary budget further reveals that other significant changes in the government's spending plan for the period ending June 2020 include a 9.6 billion shillings increase in cash transfers for old persons, taking the aggregate allocation to 22.2 billion shillings. Cash transfers to the vulnerable children have also received a shot in the arm with a 300 million shillings increase, taking it up from the previous 1.76 billion shillings to 2.06 billion shillings. The boost in cash transfers reflects efforts by the government to put money in Kenyans' pockets amidst the economic downturn triggered by the spread of COVID-19. On the whole, the supplementary budget provides for a net reduction of 74.4 billion shillings in planned expenditure for the financial year ending June 30th, 2020, with development spending having taken a massive hit in terms of expenditure cuts. Julian Amboko, NTV.
Now, all tea produced in the country and headed for the export market will soon have to be sold exclusively through the auction process once the proposed regulations by the Ministry of Agriculture banning direct tea exports take effect. The proposal is part of a raft of interventions developed by the Ministry of Agriculture following President Kenyatta's directive earlier this year to have the tea sector reformed in order to weed out cartels.
Just like coffee, Kenya's high-quality tea has continued earning top dollar in the international market, fetching the country 140.9 billion shillings in revenues in 2018. But on the flip side, farmers continue wallowing in poverty due to low returns in what is associated to, among many other things, loopholes in the marketing structure of the commodity in the country.
The tea value chain in the country has historically been constrained by structural challenges that have collectively undermined the ability of the sector to achieve its full potential.
These challenges identified by the ministry include a dysfunctional tea auction system in Mombasa, characterized by what it terms as insider trading and conflict of interest, lower and sometimes highly volatile tea prices, as well as abuse of power by the Kenya Tea Development Agency KTDA, which has been accused of, among many other things, using its dominant position to undermine trading at the auction, as well as delaying payments to farmers.
Buyers interested in Kenyan tea do not have any commercial incentives to compete and push tea prices at the auction because of the opportunity to negotiate a sale by private treaty with KTDA outside the auction system, sometimes at prices below the auction prices.
To address these challenges, the ministry now wants all Kenyan tea exports sold exclusively through auctions, which will now have to migrate trading to an electronic platform. Tea buyers will also have to deposit a bank guarantee equivalent to 10% of the value of the tea they intend to buy to underwrite risks associated with buyers who fail to pay for all the tea bids they won at the auction. Remuneration for any management service shall not exceed 2% of the value of the tea sold per year, while factories will now have to make monthly payments to farmers, with the balance being paid as annual bonus.
Since the auction takes place regularly, weekly, why should farmers take forever to wait for bonuses? We are saying they should also be paid monthly so that they have monthly earnings from their tea.
The regulations will now be subjected to public participation for a period of 14 days before being gazetted by the ministry. Last year, Kenya produced 458 million kilograms of black tea, accounting for approximately 7.6% of global tea production. Victor Kiprop, NTV.
Now to the transport sector, where the national flag carrier Kenya Airways this morning dispatched a cargo flight operated by its Boeing 787 Dreamliner passenger aircraft from Nairobi to London, loaded with 40,000 kilograms of fresh produce. Now, the airline is now repurposing its passenger aircraft for use in lifting cargo. Julian Samboko once more with the details.
On March 23, 2020, Kenya suspended all international flights with the exception of those attached to cargo and evacuation of citizens as the country stepped up measures to arrest the imported cases of COVID-19. This ban will be extended on April 6th. With cargo accounting for only 6.8% of the airline's total revenue as of the latest filing, KQ's work is clearly cut out in terms of propping revenues in the absence of passenger flights. Despite the sagging demand in the global economy as COVID-19 occasions job cuts and precipitates depressed incomes, Kenya Airways is bullish that the prospects for cargo in helping it stay afloat are strong.
The crisis, unfortunately, has brought everything to pretty much a standstill. We've been quarantining at home, but for today, or for this time, we are able to continue with cargo.
We have fresh produce here, we have flowers, we have vegetables and herbs.
Airlines across the globe have taken a hit from the suspension of passenger flights necessitated by the efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19. This has had a serious impact on investor confidence. The Kenya Airways share price closed Thursday's trade at 1 shilling and 13 cents, having fallen by 44.8% since the start of 2020. This decline in price has seen shareholder wealth decline by 5.2 billion shillings. Julian Amboko, NTV.
NTV Business News in association with KCB Internet Banking.
We can always talk about your account online whenever you like.
Register at your nearest branch for KCB Internet Banking today.
Well, that's business, but let's take a look at what's coming up. And this is how the rest of the world is coping with the coronavirus, and walls have been raised and societies quarantined as people enter new reality. Once bustling cities have become veritable ghost towns. Take Sydney Opera House, for example, that on a typical sunrise will be bustling. Now, the city's circular quay remains quiet in the morning peak hour during the coronavirus lockdown. Most of Australians remain at home as lockdowns encourage workers to stay put where possible.
Washing your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. How does it help? Soap molecules have two halves. One half loves water and the other half loves fat. COVID-19's outer layer is made up of fat. So when you wash your hands, soap starts to bond with the fatty lipid membrane of the virus. When you rinse the soap off, the virus, which has bonded with the soap, is washed down the drain. Wash your hands with soap, covering your entire hand surface and rubbing your hands together for at least 20 seconds before rinsing the soap off with water. Message brought to you by Detrex Germ Protection Soap.
Discovered the world-famous Molfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Molfix is. Molfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
And the news continues. We still have sports and international news. But first, nearly a third of the slightly more than 1 million borrowers will be removed from the country's credit reference bureaus following the central bank's order to spare defaulters with unpaid loans of less than 1,000 shillings. Now, this move will enhance the borrowers' chance of being able to borrow more in the latest cleanup of the CRB's blacklist, which has about 3.2 million Kenyans. For this and more stories, please get a copy of your Business Daily tomorrow. That's the headline right there. And now let's cross the borders. Nigerian security agents have killed 18 people in their enforcement of the measures to curb the coronavirus. The country's human rights body now says the figure is higher than that documented toll inflicted by the disease. Different countries have continued taking stringent measures to curb the spread of COVID-19.
Nigeria, which is Africa's most populous nation, has imposed a total lockdown in megacity Lagos and the capital, Abuja, and set restrictions in other regions in a bid to contain the virus. The coronavirus has so far infected 407 people in Nigeria. 12 of them are critically ill. Security forces, including police and army, have been deployed to enforce the restrictions, sparking deadly confrontations in some states. The National Human Rights Commission said it had received and documented 105 complaints of incidents of human rights violations perpetuated by security forces in 24 of Nigeria's 36 states and Abuja. Of these complaints, there were 8 documented incidents of extrajudicial killings leading to 18 deaths. Police have killed more people than COVID-19, which has caused 11 deaths in Nigeria. The National Human Rights Commission accuses the security agents of excessive or disproportionate use of force, abuse of power, corruption, and an adherence to national and international laws, best practices, and rules of engagement. National Police spokesman Frank MBA said police will continue to enforce the lockdown measures professionally and in line with international best practices. He said the police authorities would not condone any abuses or infractions against the personnel, adding that recently an officer who extorted money from a civilian was punished and made to refund it to the owner. Local and international rights bodies have long accused Nigerian security forces of abuses against civilians, but they have denied the charges.
These guys.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expanded a state of emergency due to the coronavirus to cover the whole country to stem the growing spread of the disease. The declaration allows regional governors to urge people to stay indoors, but with no punitive measures or legal force. Japan has so far seen a relatively small outbreak of the virus despite recording its first case in mid-January with around 8,500 infections and 136 deaths by Thursday.
Well, time now for our last break. But even as we take the break, take a look at this. And necessity is the mother of inventions, especially when you're a highly tuned athlete who needs to stay in shape for whatever global 2020 events can start again. Athletes have been coming up with creative and fun ways to keep their bodies supple and minds alert. A French BMX star showcases flatland moves with a stunning cityscape backdrop as his dog Ariana, a Bigomix, joins in the fun. Now sports is up next.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight. Clean Soft kicks out stains. Kimateki.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Maritime Tips, brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for vessel and boat owners, operators, coxswains and passengers. Personal hygiene. Practice frequent hand hygiene, coughing and sneezing etiquette. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels such as steering wheel, safety or guardrails and seats. Crew members, coxswains and passengers to regularly disinfect life jackets. Practice frequent hand washing with soap, Wear a mask on board a boat or vessel. Boat owners and operators are to comply with government directives on movement restrictions within counties. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
Pop, pop, it's showtime, 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 showtime. Guess who's back again? I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket.
Trend.
It's going down, cause I'm around. Trend. Everybody knows I'm unstoppable.
Let me make one thing clear.
Ladies and gentlemen, every day we endeavor to provide you with the best real estate solutions. Own your dream home at Victory Gardens. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
A few minutes to the top of the hour. Let's play. Postponing the Tokyo 2020 Olympics will provide a welcome boost to the coronavirus hit Japanese economy next year, a senior International Olympic Committee official claimed on Thursday. The IOC and Japan last month took the historic decision to delay the Olympics by 1 year, with an opening ceremony planned for July of